In just days, the Auto Task Force is scheduled to decide if General Motors and Chrysler's restructuring plans are up to par.
But new tonight, Local 4 business editor Rod Maloney has learned their decision may be fast-tracked.
Rod joins us now live with what he's hearing and this whole notion of viability, Rod.
Oh, it's tough, Devin. You know, the Automotive Task Force knows the auto industry, particularly the suppliers, needed help yesterday. And so it's starting to look like the task force may give us some indication of what it's thinking in advance of March 31st. But we all need to remember that it is going to be an answer to some questions, but we are not entirely out of the woods here. Every Monday now, Chrysler gives the Automotive Task Force a 13-week liquidity forecast, and every Wednesday they go over expenses. But Chrysler Chairman Bob Nardelli says he needs one thing from the task force by the end of the month.
We're driving for that date for a lot of reasons. One is, obviously, we have a responsibility to make sure that if the answer is no, which would be devastating, we have to have enough liquidity to make sure that if it is a bankruptcy, that we have an orderly wind down.
Sitting in front of both Chrysler and Fiat cars, Nardelli is willing to continue pushing his alliance with Fiat.
This would significantly enhance our standalone plan and would compress the amount of time by which we would be able to repay the government and the taxpayers by a couple of years through this alliance.
Meantime, Republican Congressman Thaddeus McCotter also met with the task force and thinks that it's going to beat the March 31st deadline, at least with its intentions.
I think that next week we can have some hopeful signs from this task force as to the future of both Chrysler and GM.
Hope is one thing. He reminds us 2009 will not be a great year for the auto industry.
As you know, Rod, our best case scenario remains that even with a bridge loan under the extant viability plans, which are looking at are 50,000 people losing their jobs. And so the concern that I have is going to be what type of changes the task force might make.
And today, GM CEO Rick Wagner again reiterated his belief that if GM is forced into private bankruptcy, it would mean liquidation of the company because no one would buy the cars from a bankrupt company. But the Automotive Task Force is saying that bankruptcy is not its intent. So it's entirely possible, and Wagner certainly hopes this happens, that the government is basically readying a publicly funded bankruptcy of sorts and a bit of a soft landing. Rod Maloney, Local 4.